Meeting of the Carver Board of Selectmen on December 15th, 2015. This meeting is being cablecast by Area 58, Community Access Media, Channel 15. We have openings on several committees. Please contact the Selectmen's Office for a listing and application. Donations to the food pantry can be made at the Council on Aging or the Public Library. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In our community prayer from Selectman Maroney.
Almighty God, humbly we pray your blessing as we concern our life with the opportunity to serve our community. Enhance us with your spirit of dignity and selflessness. May we become instruments of support and understanding as we seek to bring an environment of trust and purpose among all who provide the many services that make us all that we can become. Help us achieve the goals of our commitment in this office that is now our responsibility. And especially, we lift our prayers for all the citizens of our community that we have been allowed to serve, that they may discover the fullness of joy of life that we all seek. And please keep those serving in our armed forces and our first responses always in our hearts and thoughts. Amen.
And now the public comment period. This is a period of 10 minutes that we set aside at the beginning of each meeting, and we ask any residents that would like to speak to limit their discussion to 3 minutes to allow time for others. Is there anyone that wanted to address the board tonight? Yes, sir. Please provide your name and address.
Robert Belvin, 26 Gate Street. Thank you very much. I wasn't too happy with town meeting, not the way that it turned out, just how I was treated at town meeting. But that being said, I think some information that was given to town meeting was incorrect. And new information has come about to me from somebody else, told me to look it up. And it's called A Guide to Financial Management for Town Officials through the Department of Revenue. And part of it is under town meeting. Can a town meeting appropriate money in a special purpose article in excess of the amount stated in the article? And you can.
You say you can?
You can.
That goes against my 30 years attending town meeting. I've never encountered that. It's always been the rule that if you're advertising, the theory behind it is someone looking over a town meeting warrant in advance of town meeting sees what the articles are, sees the amount that's going to be spent, and they may decide not to attend because they're comfortable with what they see there. Then if town meeting moves to increase a $5 million article to $10 million, they didn't have an opportunity to address it. So I really wonder whether that's accurate or not, and might not address something else.
With that being said, the one other thing that it does say in here is that it had qualifying language in it. And the way the articles were written, the last sentence is the qualifying language that allows town meeting to do anything to the article is, or take any other action relative thereto. That's qualifying language, from what I've been told. And I think that maybe this needs to be clarified a little bit more, but before we go to another town meeting. But I know in past practice, we have increased at town meeting.
Not to my recollection.
We've done it with South Shore Community Action Council. We've increased it from 3,000 to 5,000. That was done at town meeting on the town meeting floor.
Then that has to be maybe one exception out of all the town meetings I've attended.
Then other ones in the past, there have been other articles that were increased.
Well, at any rate, I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I do actually believe that we're working to put some bylaws together that will come before a town meeting that will specifically state that you're not allowed to increase. Just in case there's any question, we want to have it spelled out. I thought the state law did not allow it, and I'd be surprised if you were, because it just seems that a citizens could be caught by surprise, where the people attending town meeting could just turn the town on its head by arbitrarily increasing the value of any particular article, but I know that we're gonna, just to make sure the i's are dotted and t's are crossed, we're gonna be addressing I think the governance committee is putting together some bylaws that will specifically state that you cannot increase an article at our town meetings, just so there's no question, there's no gray area, that it's very specific.
I hope that a subcommittee that's put out there includes a lot of town meeting members that go out there and put it out that it's a subcommittee. I think this should be a subcommittee, not from the governance committee, but from the selectmen here. Instead of that people be able to put together this and have different opinions and not a one-sided opinion or town council's opinion or whatnot, that everyone has an opportunity to speak and to go ahead and put their 2 cents worth in.
Well, the governance committee is being charged this time around looking over all our bylaws, so I think it makes sense for it to go to them. However, certainly I would suggest that I'd ask them to advertise when they're gonna be discussing those issues so people can attend.
Can I speak to that? I'm on the governance committee, and it is the governance committee's responsibility is to study these various problems and things that we need to tweak and come back to the selectmen and to the town. Somebody has to address these things and then bring it to the attention of the main governing body. And so that's why the governance committee is doing the addressing of the different issues that are coming up like this, Bob.
I'd like to be part of that, of a solution for this, and so because town meeting's very important. It's not just something you go to once a year, or, I mean, we talk about important issues here in the town, and how.
No, I agree, and I'm shocked at the idea that there could ever be allowed the ability to raise an article. But anyway, we're past our 3 minutes, so.
So I just figured I'd like to talk to you at a later date. I'd like to talk in depth to this at another meeting if I could, with the Board of Selectmen, because I think there's another issue that goes along with this.
Maybe we can talk separately and determine what the best venue would be.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We're a little early. Well, is there anyone else that wanted to speak to the?
If I could,
Yes.
please, I'd like to just comment something to Bob. Mr. Belvin?
I'm sorry.
Can I just, as you're very passionate about the community, but can I just offer a recommendation? To bring such a drastic change to the town meeting, which may have, and it did have a lot of value, but to bring it to town meeting, would it be in the best interest of this town to talk it over with maybe the town administrator prior to the meeting so we could work out the legal challenges if there are any? Because each time something like this happens, it's costing the town thousands of dollars having to do inquiries on all of your questions. It's costing a lot of money. So I think if we worked in a friendly fashion and you came to us prior to, that I think it would be in the best interest of all, because a lot of your points are valid, but when you bring them out on town meeting floor at the last minute, I don't think it's serving anybody's purpose. And you have one vote, and I think it's because it's such an in-depth request, which you're a very intelligent man putting these things together, but I think it's getting lost at town meeting, and it's costing the town thousands of dollars. So that would just be my recommendation.
Can I rebut that for a second?
No, we're not.
Yeah.
You two can
It was,
talk
yeah,
afterwards.
it was just a friendly comment that I had.
All right, it being 7:10, we have a hearing. Charlie's Auto, Charles Quintal, and Douglas and Kathleen Ladd, a Class 2 license and ongoing issues on the property. If I could ask if they're represented here to step forward, please.
I am Charles Quinzel, I live on 21 Ninth Street, and I represent Charlie's Auto since I've had it for 22 years.
I believe some members of the board had some questions they would like to ask.
Sure.
Yes, Mr. Quintal, thank you for coming in. I am speaking on behalf of the residents of the town that have come to me in regards to Charlie's Auto. And there's been ongoing concerns that it's not being worked in a manner that what the license requires. It appears that You have more autos there. The property is in disarray, and it seems like we did an inspection and you cleared everything out, and then shortly thereafter, it was back into the same condition. And there's a lot of concern about the health perspective of it and what's going on with the property itself. So,
I have no control over that, I'm not the owner. I just rent there from Doug Ladd, and I had a very similar situation like what you're going through now several years back. And I have no control of the vehicles, there are none of my vehicles there at all. My license, I still use my license, and I sell automobiles from it, and but I don't sell them from Wenham Road. I was asked years ago.
so you are the auto repair shop that rents the space.
No, I'm not. I'm a Class 2 licensed dealer.
Right.
I rented the space there first in January of 1994, and I continue
Right.
to renew my license every year.
So you rent space there?
Yes, I
You
do.
rent,
Yes,
you
yes.
operate out of that location?
I don't operate there because of my license is there. I used to, when I first, in 1994, have a 2-car license, which I still currently do. And I had no more than 2 cars there. And then I was asked if I wouldn't mind not displaying any cars out there, which I agreed to, and I kept them inside because of the ongoing thing with the cleanup of the property. But I have no control of that. I've tried to help out with that, but I have no control of what it does there.
What, excuse me, so do you have vehicles there?
No, I don't.
What is, do you have anything there that's yours?
Just an office space.
So,
That's,
so who does own everything that's there?
Doug Ladd.
Mr. Chairman, if your cars aren't there, where are they?
currently I have 21 vehicles, and they're at auctions, and they're at, I reconsign them to a dealership in West Park.
Do you have any cars at all in the town of Carver? Because I've noticed there are frequently 2 cars across the street at 24 Wenham. Are those your cars?
I have
Then who's selling those cars? Then whose cars are those? Because they're unregistered, they're just sitting there. I have a problem with giving, signing a permit for something that's not even there. I
Right,
mean,
exactly.
shouldn't
How do you
it,
just
I
have
mean,
office?
shouldn't the owners of the building have to have a permit for having whatever it is they happen to be doing there?
Well, it seems like we have 2 issues here. We have, Mr. Quintal, who rents a space there, has an office there, but that's it. He has no vehicles there. And I think I just want to make sure that I'm absolutely clear. Nothing on that property is yours other than what's inside the office.
Right, nothing there.
So you use that as the address for the purposes of your license to sell vehicles.
My tax and my resale certificate all coincides with my old phone.
But you don't store vehicles there, you don't sell them from that site.
I have a letter from, I think it was 2006. I have it with me. When, well, it's not in writing, but they were having a very similar problem there. And personally, Frank, who used to be at the post office, who was the seller.
Casey.
He had asked me, I know that this is not your mess, that's your vehicles that are down here and stuff. And I'd like to ask you if you mind not putting anything, at least straighten this issue out. And I agreed to it, and I haven't had vehicles there since. The reason I have my license is because it allows me to buy and sell. For an example, now I have 21, I have my used car record book with me, if I can see it. But I have 21 vehicles that are in Charlie's Auto, and they're all in compliance with my tax and my O4 and my resale certificates. And it allows me to transfer ownership to this. If I can't get my license, I'm gonna be in trouble because I won't be able to transfer these vehicles without a license.
So Douglas and Kathleen Ladd own all, well, they're the ones that placed the vehicles that are there. They put them there. Any debris that's outside, that's all theirs.
Absolutely not mine.
Or other people that may have at one time rented, because there have been other tenants down there.
When I was there in the earlier nineties, there were, I believe, 3 businesses there. There was a repair shop, an auto body shop, and another repair shop, a guy that ran a Subaru place there years ago. So, and they moved out one at a time, and I'm the only one that's been there all these years since.
I guess it just seems that we're talking to the wrong person if those aren't your vehicles here. Ms. Hewens?
Yes, Mr. Quintal, where did you say your 21 vehicles were located?
They're in JBS Auto in Westport.
In where?
In Westport.
Westport.
Why don't you have a license from the town of Westport?
Because my license is here for the 23 years that I've used it.
And
And my taxes, I file my taxes. And
I understand that your license is here. My question is, if your cars are in a different town and you're constantly, maybe harassed is not the right word, but this property has been a problem for a very long time. I don't understand why you don't have you just take your office and your license and go to where your cars are.
because it's not an easy thing to do, because I've been sick. I've had diabetes since 1999, and for several years I was in the hospital, in and out of the hospital. I wasn't able to work. And what I do now with this license is just on a part-time basis to help me pay for my medications, because I'm on Social Security. I'm 70 years old, and I don't have the energy I used to have. And I just use this to go along and do it. As far as getting a license in Westport, I don't have a place that I have or rent there. And I would have to, you have to have a lot, and you have to apply for another sales.
Well, it is possible to do internet sales as well, where you don't need to have a place. I'm just wondering why,
I do it in
putting up with this situation must be difficult for you.
It's hard, because my license, it's like, I need this for my living,
Mr. Ward?
I feel for your situation. The only thing is, come back to us, okay? We are issuing a license to somebody who doesn't even do business in town,
I do.
okay? And I mean, you're just saying your place of storage and all, so we're issuing a license for kind of like this phantom business that's down there. And so wait a minute, okay, so now here comes somebody else that says, well, I got an office over here, I need a used car license, and somebody else in some other place, this becomes a difficult situation for us, issuing this license.
We've sort of got two different situations going here. One was the initial thrust of this was to try to get that property, the property is an eyesore. And I think the original intent was to address the fact that it was an
The
eyesore.
property itself, correct.
Now we've sort of wandered into a secondary issue
Which is-
where we have someone that is selling used cars, has the used car license here, but the cars are actually located in another town, which in
So now we
one
have
sense
another
almost sounds ideal to me, so that we don't have the cars in the town.
And I think that part of the problem is that problems like what have been going on this property run with the land. And so if we're issuing a license, it seems to me that land has to be cleared up before we can issue anything.
But this gentleman's just renting, he doesn't own the
May
property.
I?
I think our issue, I
That
would
goes
think,
to what
is
Mr. Wood
Douglas
said.
and Kathleen Ladd.
But our issuing a license goes to what Mr.
Well, I don't know whether it's illegal or not to, that's the town administrator, are you by any chance familiar with the
Strange
fact?
precedent.
Pardon me?
It's just a strange precedent, I think.
Well, is it a precedent, or is it something that's already existed? And Mr. Dunham?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are the people that own the property, are they doing anything there? Are they running a business out of there? What are they doing? Do they even have a permit to go ahead and allow you to even run a space there?
Excuse me, the places where I have my vehicle?
No,
No.
for 25 Wenham Road. That's our problem. You don't know,
I don't know what he's doing there,
does he ever show up there?
I did see him there last week.
Okay, are they running, do they have a permit do you have to have a permit to lease to a person? Or a company in this case?
I don't think so, because he owns the property, and he rented me that garage in
May
I think it's a commercial property, so I assume it's.
He's under an enforcement order from the Conservation Commission. And he's in violation of the law
May
down
I,
there.
Mr.
I can't
Chair?
understand why, you know, it doesn't just comply.
Mr.
Ms. Murray?
Quintel? I thought this was gonna be simple. That I was very excited to see that you were here, but now I am really concerned for two reasons. Dovetailing off of what Sarah was saying is, you have 21 cars in Westport, you live in Fall River.
I don't have 21 cars there. I have 21 cars that I own. Some of them are at Manheim auction. This is exactly what I did since day one, because I have a 2-car license. I couldn't put 20 cars there.
I understand that, but in good faith to all the other people that we issue license to, you live in Fall River, all your cars are being placed somewhere else. We gave you a 2-car license in good faith to do business in Carver, and it's not happening. And I'm a little concerned that you've been there since 1999, and it seems like you have no idea what Mr. and Mrs. Ladd are doing on that property with
No, I've been here since 94.
94, but I just think we need more, and I just think
Well,
that
yeah, I mean, I don't know how much we can blame the tenant for what the landlords are doing.
we can't, but,
He doesn't have a business there.
but he doesn't have a business, he's not operating in Carver.
Well, all right, we've wandered into two areas here. One is, we're concerned about the condition of the property.
That was
the
number
main
one.
reason we got here. Now, I legally don't know what you can or can't do. I have no idea whether it's legal to have a license in the town and not actually sell the cars in there. I don't know.
That,
Could I say
So-
what the license allows me to do?
Yeah.
The license gives me access to go to any auction that I'm registered with in Manheim, and it allows me to buy as many vehicles that I want. Now, since I've started this, I've been doing this, I buy vehicles at ADESA. One time in the middle 90s, I bought 18 vehicles there. They didn't all come to Carver. They went, half of them went to the Manheim auction. What a license allows me to do is to be able to transfer the ownership from one dealer to another, and it allows me to display them at other lots or other auctions.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to explore it, but I mean, my understanding is we may have some people that do sell their vehicles strictly through the internet.
right,
But
they have a license.
they need a license, from us. So
Right.
they don't have physical vehicles in town because they're selling via the internet.
But they sell them via the internet out of their homes. And
Yes, that's right.
there's nothing happening.
So, when I sell on the internet, it allows me to transfer the ownership because I have a license to the person who purchases on the internet. It doesn't have to be from Carver.
Well, again, I just am still curious as to why you don't get a license from Westport or
Because
or
it's very
Fairhaven or
difficult to do that.
wherever.
Well,
I don't
and-
know why
and
it would be
and
any
again,
harder.
I think, well, again, I
don't
think
know
we
why
need to
it
get
would be
a.
any harder to do there than it is here. And
Well,
it would relieve you of so many issues with the property owner. I just don't get, I don't understand.
But I think we may have, I think with the advent of the internet, we may have several licenses in this town where people don't even physically touch a vehicle. They
That's right.
just take possession of it over here, they sell it over there, they're like a broker.
But it's in the license.
But they.
I don't know that.
No, we
No,
signed
it is.
them.
We've given out licenses
We've
like that,
given
but they do
licenses.
they do the internet over.
Okay, at any rate, I think we need to do a little research
Yeah.
on this issue. We can't resolve anything here tonight. Mr. Town Administrator,
And may I make a suggestion that?
I'm begging you to.
I can see that. It is my understanding the selectmen have the sole right to issue a license or not issue a license at your sole discretion. I don't have an opinion on whether he can sell it in or out of town on the internet or not. I do not know that. But clearly there are two issues here. You do have the owner who will be back from vacation. We will schedule him at our January meeting to address the main issue, which is the 14 cars and the enforcement order that's there. May I suggest you look at, because his license expires the end of December at this point right now, maybe you offer him a temporary 6-month license to come back in 6 months and then to further evaluate what happens. He may decide in that time to look at Westport or come back with some more information or rent someplace else in town because he's not happy with the landowner. But it allows his business to continue, and it also puts some time frame on getting this resolved or helping to resolve this.
I'd be comfortable with that. Someone want to make that motion?
maybe a shorter term until the lads get back so we could have both parties here to talk about the issues in its totality and get some legal opinion as to,
You wanna make it 90 days?
yeah, I mean, I don't wanna impact anybody's business, but I also have an obligation to the residents of the town, Mr. Quintel. And do you understand? And that's why I don't wanna stop your business, and that's why I would be happy with maybe a 90-day, so we can kinda gather, and figure out what's going on. Because this property has been going on, but now we've got another issue that you're not really operating out of Carver. And if it ends up being that that's the way it can be, then I would grant the license in a heartbeat. But making a decision without all the facts is just not,
So is that a motion for 90 days?
yes.
I'll second that.
Further discussion?
Just a point, I mean, on the application for license renewal, the address is 25 Wareham Street, Wenham Street. So,
No,
yeah,
he's
Wenham
living
Road,
in
yeah, it's,
Fall
yep,
River.
road. 25 Wenham Road is the address of the business, so that's
Right.
our concern, so
Right.
I will go along with the 90 days, but I wanna have some clarification by everybody here before we go beyond that.
Further discussion? Being none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. All right, thank you. So, you may hear from someone in the selectman's office just to, if we have any questions, because obviously one of the things we need to do is to make sure of the legality of the way the current arrangement is. So that's among other things. And then the separate issue is dealing with
The
the
lads.
lads when they return.
Yes,
So,
if I could, it would be beneficial if you could attend the hearing when we have it with the lads, we will let you know. Even though we'll be talking to them, there may be some questions from the board to you at that point. But again, this 90-day extension does allow you to continue to operate your business.
Okay, could I pick up my license?
You should be able to pick it up tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
thank you,
Quintel.
appreciate you coming in.
I appreciate it.
Actually, we'll call you when it's done, just so you get the
Okay, do
signatures.
you have my telephone information?
It is.
It's 774-301.
Have some information here somewhere. Yeah.
We'll call you when it's ready, we're going to be ready shortly.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
We move on to the town administrator update.
Mr. Chairman, if I could start, we have some guests here regarding the electric aggregation, and I'd like to invite Ross Perry up from Serped and have him give the initial introduction to that, and then turn it over from there. So come on up, gentlemen.
Good evening, thank you for inviting us back. I'm Ross Perry with Serped Lumix, and I used to own our arc from Good Energy. You may remember Good Energy.
Oh,
is the-
can you use the mic?
I'm sorry.
People at home won't be able to hear.
Good Energy is the company that we selected after a competitive solicitation. They presented the best plan for running the aggregation, and through the months I've been working with them, they fulfilled every promise and every commitment, and probably done over and above what we had expected. The aggregation has been released. You've seen the postcard going out to mailers.
So everyone should receive that in the mail.
Everybody should have received this in the mail. It includes this letter that explains what the program is.
I don't think I've seen that yet.
Well, we have a contract.
Oh, because we have a,
If you already have a
You should have
contract.
gotten this
If you
anyway.
have a competitive source already, you would not be mailed this. So
Okay.
it's only people who are still on basic service
Mhm.
would have gotten this.
Yeah.
So, I'd love to talk about this all night long, but John's here, he's the expert. I'll turn this over to John.
Thank you, Russ. Again, as you all know, the aggregation was passed by residents at town meeting, and on November 10th, 23 towns accepted the bid of 9.49 cents per kilowatt hour for 2 years. This is a savings, obviously, over the Eversource territory as well as National Grid. As of that day, as I say, there were 23 towns involved in accepting that bid, 18 of which are from the Serped region, and that's due to Ross's leadership in this program and the the group purchasing of electricity that we've gone into here. The letters for Carver, first of all, after the November 10th acceptance of the bid, we received information from Eversource and National Grid as of the 17th of November for every customer that was on the basic service with each of those utilities. Here in Carver, it's Eversource. So everyone who we got account information on as of the 17th was mailed the letter that explains the program and the opt-out card if they wanted to opt out. Those individuals who had already signed a contract with a competitive supplier were not mailed the letter. Essentially, what has happened on a few occasions is we've had people between the time we got the information on the 17th and letters were mailed out on the 2nd in that slice of time that either came off a competitive supplier, and obviously at that point they didn't get a letter, or they may have signed up with a supplier in that interim period, and they may have gotten a letter in error. So we're cleaning up those little details, considering the fact that we had about 180,000 letters go out to all the towns. We have no more than a couple of dozen of those situations. But if there is a call to the town administrator about that, the first thing he should do is call me, and we'll work out that situation. Right now, things are running very smoothly, and we expect that everyone who stays in the program in January, they will be switched over on their January meter read date. And that's where we are in the program right now.
I brought my electric bill with me because it can be confusing. Are we talking the delivery charges or the generation charges?
We're talking generation.
Generation charges, okay.
We're only dealing with the supply side of the bill, not with the delivery side of the bill.
And it's the generation charge that I have my contract with an outside.
That's correct.
So are you happy?
No, I'm not. I know I can opt out by giving them a certain amount of cash.
Yeah.
So that, so again, just so people understand, as they look at their bill, there's, in the electric bill comparison, there's electric charges, then there's delivery charges, then there's generation charges. What they want to look at is the generation charges. For those of you that may also have separate contracts, you want to look like, for instance, right now, I'm currently paying 11.1 cents.
Oh,
a
you
month.
should have listened to me.
Yeah, the only change on the Eversource bill would be the name of the supplier. Everything else will stay the same.
But it's going to be 9.9.
9.49.
9.9.
Okay, so you want to make me feel worse. So 9.49 instead of the 11.1 that I'm looking at here.
Correct, and it won't
Okay.
go up for 2 years.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Good, I wanted you to know.
When your contract expires, or you choose to get out ahead of time, call John, or call the numbers that we've posted, that are on the wall
Yep.
there. They can talk to you about getting into the program. It may not be at the same 949 rate.
So I might miss the 949, depending on when it happens.
You made a smart decision in picking something different than their basic service when you made the change.
Oh, you're good.
It was 20 cents at the time, I think.
It just turns out that now we've gotten a better deal that sort of shows you the power of us, no pun intended, of us going to bid as a large
Stop it.
aggregate. All the residents of Carver, plus the other 22 communities. What you had done was the way the law is designed to work.
Seemed to be prudent at the time.
It's better than the 14 cents you would have paid last winter if you were on Eversource.
Through you, Mr. Chair. While you're weeping.
Depends what you're going to say.
No, I'll say that later. For the residents, a few people have commented that they were upset that they had to opt out and not opt in. Could you explain for the residents why that was such?
The law in Massachusetts, which was written in 1997 by Senator Stan Rosenberg, who is now the President of the Senate. It was the first municipal aggregation law written in the United States. Part of the rationale of the law was first that the best organizing force within any municipality is the municipal officials. So that's why the municipal officials promote the program and the residents vote on it. The second part of this law and the rationale for putting together the largest buying group within a municipality was the opt-out provision. Essentially, they felt that you could get the largest group of people through an opt-out rather than an opt-in. Now, every law, there are 5 other states that have municipal aggregation laws, and 10 or 12 that are going through the legislative process in their states. All of them are based on the Massachusetts law or a variant of the Massachusetts law, and all of them that are in operation today are opt-out programs. So it's a matter of law that this is an opt-out program.
And didn't you both say at one point that you also could get the lower rates because you're going in aggregate by doing the opt-out provision, or was I just dreaming about that? I was dreaming.
You weren't.
The program is designed to get lower rates because you're buying as a bigger block. And the feeling was you will get a bigger block with the opt-out process, assuming everybody's in to start with.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a couple of you have already gone out to get competitive source, but you're representing 20% of the board?
But I did much better than Ron Clark. Sorry,
The point is, the majority of you are still on the basic service, and the idea is the opt-out and get more people
Right.
through that process
Yeah.
than the other way around.
So, getting back to the idea that if contracts expire 6 months from now or a year from now for people that are in a contract, the 0.949 is good for what period of time? Anybody signing up through the end of January, or?
The 9.49 is good for the 2-year contract, okay? If you're on the basic service now and you opt out, and then you want to join the program later on, okay? You may not get the 949 rate, okay? However, if you're on a competitive supplier now, and 6 months from now you want to come into the program, you're treated as a new customer, and you get the 9.49 rate.
So in Ron's situation, if he
He gets
chooses
the
to cancel his contract right now and buy himself out of it, he will be able to lock in the 949.
That's correct.
Okay.
And once you're in the program, you can opt out at any time, but you can't get back in for that 2-year period.
Well, you can, but the rate might be different.
That's correct.
Okay.
And anybody that chooses to opt out now and not even start would also be subject to possibly a different rate
That's correct.
when they go to decide to join. Okay.
So there's hope for you.
So, Mr. Chair, could I just
Yes, you may.
clarify? So this, on the sample thing that you sent us in the mail, it says 0.0949 kilowatt hours. So I just want to be clear that people understand that that's 9.49 cents per kilowatt hour as opposed to 10.8 cents that is we are currently being charged for generation charges.
That's correct. And that's explained in the letter that went out.
I know. I just wanted to say it again. And I also want to make sure, because I've had some people, I've heard some people say, we'll just send back the card. I don't know what this is. It's kind of creepy, and just send back the card. But I hope people really read the card, because this was really supposed to be helpful and easy. And I think that's why the law was written that way, so that you would get the best deal without doing anything. So if you want this good rate, don't do anything, I guess is the message I want to get out there.
And again, I mean, for instance, I'm looking at in November last year, I had 1,056 kilowatt hours. So the savings comes in because you multiply it by 9.5 cents instead of 10.8 cents per hour.
That's correct.
And so that's what that adds up to something over the course of a year. Okay. All right. Well, this day just keeps getting
But you
better.
probably saved money the first year or so. So you did. It's not that painful for you, Ron. Get over it.
I'm,
Source last time was
14.2.
at one point, they were up to 20 at one point.
That's- So you saved a lot of money then.
Or, you know, earlier last year.
Mhm. No, I'm not. No, I'm not worried about it. I'm fine.
That's why you put his bill here and he said.
Well, I no, because it's confusing to read whether they're talking delivery, generation. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Just with people, is to call this number on this website, it's posted over there as well. I'll copy these handouts with Michael. The website is great, has a lot of frequently asked questions. The phone numbers are great, you will talk to real people. If you give them your account number, they can walk you through your situation, your bill, and explain things to individuals so they understand that. I mean, I think we were talking about buying in and buying out tonight, it can be confusing. Please have people either go to the website or take some other.
Could you just tell us what the website is so that the people at home can hear?
Yes, it's Mass CPA, MASSCPA.com.
Mr. Chairman.
MassCEA.com.
Could we have that linked from the town website to make it easier for the residents to find it?
It's very nicely set up on your website, you can access it from news and events, I think it's listed there.
Okay,
It's all
just want to
laid
make
out.
sure.
And can you read the telephone number? For us old folks that don't do a lot of email?
Yes.
Just so folks on the TV hear it.
Phone number is 855-788-9885.
Again,
In the microphone, please?
I'm gonna get this right yet. For additional information on this program, call 788-9885. One more time, 855-788-9885.
very good, thank you.
And you all have my card. You have my cell phone on there. Anytime you have a question, don't hesitate to call me directly. And Mike, if someone calls you and they have a question, give them my number, okay, and I'll answer their questions. Okay.
Excellent. Any other questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate you coming
Merry
in.
Christmas.
Thank you.
Come back next time with questions, please.
Did a nice job getting that contract. We're looking forward to it. My first call is to my supplier tomorrow.
It's so funny.
Mr. Chairman, while Ross is still here, and I don't want to get into too much detail right now because we're still working on this, but as part of our community compact agreement with the state, one of our areas was to look into intermunicipal opportunities as a way of helping the town better financially survive in the future. With that, I've had several conversations with Ross and meetings, and yesterday we had our first four-town meeting with the four town administrators coordinators, and that included Carver, Halifax, Plimpton, and Kingston. Ross prepared a 27-page slide presentation that we all worked through. There's some edits that we're going to be doing on this. We are going to be having a follow-up meeting the very beginning of February after some additional groundwork is done with the four towns and also with some of the finance committee representatives to try to talk about some intermunicipal opportunities. And we'll be getting back to the board in late February, early March with some preliminary discussions. And at that point, we'll probably go around to all four towns, to their boards of selectmen, and kind of talk preliminarily as to what potentially could be on a short term, a long term, and a medium term. And that long term and medium term could be, 10, 15, 20 years from now. So it's really looking towards the future as to where there may be intermunicipal opportunities for partnership between different towns.
Excellent.
Anything else?
One other question. Are we doing anything with natural gas?
We're not.
No? Okay.
I had a couple towns ask, and I was starting looking into that, I figured we'd get the electricity.
No, yeah, just curious as to whether that was perhaps on the table at some point. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
All right, we're still in the town administrator update phase.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, in working with the Department of Revenue and also our auditor Powers and Sullivan. They're in the process of wrapping up their reports. Obviously, they're not going to be wrapped up till after the holidays. I am going to try to get them in here at our first meeting in January. I'm going to attempt to have both of them the same night because their reports kind of dovetail off of one another. If it's not the first meeting in January, it would certainly be the second meeting. So in January, I do anticipate you receiving both reports from the Department of Revenue on the financial management structure of the town, which is specifically looking at the town administrator's office combined with the town accountant's office, the treasurer collector's office, and the town assessor's office, and how that structure should be for the next 20 years as we move forward. And then the audit is obviously going to be a follow-up on our recent audit activities over this past fiscal year.
Okay, excellent.
And also, at the opposite meeting, whichever one it is, we will have a preliminary budget discussion on the different department budgets at that time, as well as some preliminary capital presentations as well. So prepare, January is going to be finance month.
Anything else?
That'll be it.
Wow, that's a brief report tonight.
In other words, switch to caffeinated coffee for January.
Correct.
Okay, Board of Selectmen comment period. Ms. Hewen.
Thank you. I did want to make a point of noting the passing of Russ Lovis, who was a dedicated public servant here in town for many years. He was on the Conservation Commission for 14 years and served on the Police Chief Search Committee back when, that resulted in the town's hiring Artie Parker originally. Russ was always a huge supporter of the school as well. I know some of you know that. And he will be sorely missed. He was also a good friend and always charged about $4 for his advice. Just
And
jokingly.
He used to be at our meetings all the time.
All the time.
Every meeting.
Same seat.
So that was the sad part. I also wanted to point out that I believe that this whole school process was such a huge success because people worked as a team and were very patient. People have said that the town meeting was step one, but I beg to differ. I think step one was getting a board of selectmen that actually voted to put the school question on the ballot. And to do that, there had to be people registered to vote. So it's kind of a chicken and egg, which was the most important, getting a board that would put the ballot question, the question on the ballot, or getting people to register to vote, and that's hard to say. But one of those is step one, and the other is step two. And then step three was town meeting, and step four was the vote. And I just want to thank everyone who, over the years, it's been many, many years, who played a part, however small they may think it was.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Maroney?
Wow, thank you. I just want to congratulate the town for the success of the school project, and I dovetail up of what Sarah says. It was, the whole process was so different than the last time we went up for a school vote. It was transparent, you had parents involved, all the different administrations worked together, and it was just really a pleasure to be able to vote yes on the school this time. So I'm really excited for this town. With that being said, I just hope that now that a lot of the people that were never involved and have gone to a few town meetings realize that the school is one piece of this town and that town meeting impacts so much, and that I hope that a valuable lesson was learned that people should stay involved and come to town meetings because so much is impacted there. So there is a lot more than just the school. So if you want to be part of Carver and its future, come to town meeting. But also, with that being said, I serve on the master plan committee. Sarah also does, and we've been meeting. The master plan committee is actually sets the tone for the town, creates the vision of where we want to go. The last master plan was back in 2001, so it's well overdue to be revisited, and we have formed a committee. But we've also had a workshop to bring the community to give us input and to really participate and let us know what you want to see for Carver in the upcoming years. So with that being said, I know everybody's involved with Christmas and the holidays right now, but just plug it into your calendar that on Thursday, January 21st, at the Carver High School Library at 7 o'clock, we are going to have another master plan workshop, which we absolutely want the community, as many residents to come as possible. And we will segment off into groups about the economic development, keeping the rural character, agriculture, and the cranberry growers, you know, how much we want to work with them, what you want to see. Do you want to see bike paths? Do you want to see expansion of commercial? Just anything is on the table right now, so you can really be part of it. So I hope to see a lot of residents there. Again, it's January 21st, 2016 at 7 p.m. And I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and any holiday that's in between that I may miss. But it's a joyous season, and I just really want to say Merry, Merry.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Dunham.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were going to go to Mr. Ward next. I too would like to thank the town for coming out and voting. As Sarah said, this has been a long, long process. And I think, Sarah was saying what came first, second, chicken or egg. I think tremendous round of thanks has to go to the school building committee, the elementary school building committee. That was probably one of the best committees. It had a wide range of political ideologies going in. You had educators, you had townspeople, you had people for building, for finance, and you all came together. And maybe at the beginning there might have been a vote that wasn't unanimous, but once you really got going, every vote, the important votes that came out of that committee were unanimous. They stressed to make sure there was public participation at the beginning of those meetings to get the public's views. They made sure they maintained the integrity of the educational plan. And congratulate, Ruby did a great job and her team of coming up with an educational plan for that facility. And then you balance that with the finances for the building to try to hold the costs down as much as we could for the townspeople. I mean, that was never out of sight. Before, the complaints had always been, well, they don't care about the townspeople. I think it was clear right from the get-go and all through the process that the taxpayer was being kept in the forefront, not the background. So I just think, in the culmination was a wonderful vote for those of us that have wanted it. However, I do ask that we do keep in mind that it was not a unanimous vote. There were people that voted against it, and they had very good reasons. And one of those reasons was they're afraid they can't afford it. So I hope that I would hate to see, gloating, we got the school. We have to come back together as a town to go forward. I agree with Helen 100%. We've had a lot of new people now get involved in the political process, dealing with boards and such, and I would love to see even more people become more involved. Take this as an opportunity to bring your suggestions to the Board of Selectmen, to the school committee, to the finance committee, to the planning board, what happens to be your interest. Because all the members of these various boards and committees, we don't have all the answers. And the more people we get involved, the more answers we can get, and we can take the town forward. Because to me, this is starting a new point forward. I don't think we really say, but it's good to learn from history and not forget those lessons. But I think we're at the point now where we take those lessons and we move forward as a town, and I think it's very exciting. And like Helen, I want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah and a very Merry Christmas. But during this time, please remember the food bank. And there's also Adopt a Nursing Home out there. You know, remember the people less fortunate than you that need our help. And I hope, you know, we get going on that tax committee with you and Bill Duggan, and I believe Andy Carterelli's on it, and a couple other people, to start looking to help those that really are on very tight budgets and are going to have a hard time coming up with what we're asking for the new school. You know, that we can give them some help as we go down the road. And again, happy holidays to everyone. Thank you.
Mr. Ward?
I'm not gonna gloat, and I wanna be as humble as we can, but congratulations to the kids of Carver, and congratulations to the teachers, administrators, and everybody in the education. I also want to make a lot of emphasis on thanks to the citizens of town. And as everybody here has been pointing out, it was an overall effort. If you watched, we had folks coming from the mobile home parks that supported the school, older folks. We had middle-aged folks that don't have any kids in the school anymore, realizing that we gotta go forward with the school. And we had young families fighting hard. It was a more than 3-1 vote. And there are people that are worried about their taxes, and we feel for that. But this came to the point where if we don't do it now, when do we do it? So anyway, thank you to the community for their support. That's, you folks, we love you. Thank you. Okay, I wanted to thank my fellow board members for all their support through this process. Being the chair of the building committee, I want to thank the building committee because I thought, as Alan pointed out, they did an awesome job. We were unanimous, but we had people, educators, as you said, municipal officials, finance people, business people, parents, and it was a coming together. And that's where we want to be. So, thank you again. And
Thank you.
so, Merry Christmas to all. Thank you.
I guess just to pile on the school issue, getting a 77% approval for the new school was just beyond anything I imagined that we would get. I just think it speaks volumes to the effort that was put together by various folks around town that worked together. I think Sarah referenced earlier, it was people working together to get this done. And I think the transparency of the process, I remember attending a meeting of the school building committee, I think might have been November of last year or something, where they actually started tossing out numbers and people were wincing at the idea that we were tossing around numbers. What, 450 or something, wasn't it? The first number that might have come out? Mm-hmm. And now I think we're down, after the 6%, we're down in the 330 range, and it could go lower than that, hopefully. So that it just speaks volumes to the effort that was done. And so I want to extend particular thanks. There's so many people that deserve recognition for this, but I want to sing. I'm going to take the chance of singling out three people. First, I want to thank Liz Sorrell, the superintendent of the schools. She was involved in the prior attempts, and this has to be a great source of pride for her that it finally passes. And for those that may not be aware, Liz announced last night that as of March 1st, she's going to be leaving our school system and getting on. But she's not done. Her life sounds busier after March 1st than it is now. So I want to wish her the very best and thank her for all her efforts on behalf of the town and the citizens and especially the kids, because I know they were always foremost in her mind. I want to thank our town administrator, Michael Milanowski. The brilliance of the financing that he brought together, and always being unafraid to throw the numbers out there and let people know and hit them head on. And I know that he and I went a couple of rounds talking about various things, and he had some difficult people that were getting in his face periodically about some of the things, and he calmly, rationally explained how things work, and I don't think we would have got where we got to without Michael's efforts. So I want to thank you for all your efforts in putting this together and helping to drive this. And in particular, I want to thank the gentleman to my left, Mr. Ward, because if any one person, if this might not have happened if we did not have Dick Ward as chair of the school building committee. So Dick, I just want to, I'm getting a little verklempt because how much you mean to this town and for the success of this project. So thank you.
Yep. Can I say one thing? It's
I can't talk, so go ahead.
yeah. I had 5 of my children grow up in Carver. I had 4 of my grandchildren grow up in Carver, and I love Carver. It is a great place for families to raise their children, and this is such a huge boost to help our education system in our town stay top notch. So that's it. That's it. I mean, you love your town, you do it.
Well, thank you. It needed someone of your honesty and integrity and presence to get this done. So
Thank you, Ron.
we're all thankful.
And coming from you folks, that's really, really big for me.
I also want to mention Russ Lovis. He had a unique sense of humor that he'd say something, you'd walk away, and it would hit you about 5 steps down what he had just got through saying. So he was just wonderful through some of the various political campaigns I've been involved with. He was always a stalwart and just a great guy. So his enthusiasm and humor is going to be missed. And then I would add that the Carver Lions are sponsoring their annual free breakfast with Santa. And I want to emphasize it's a free breakfast with Santa coming up this Saturday, 9 to 11 at the Council on Aging. 9 to 11 at the Council on Aging, free breakfast with Santa, sponsored by the Carver Lions. So we hope everyone that is available can attend that morning.
Kids of all ages?
Kids of all ages, and Santa even will take pictures with the pet of your choice. So, whatever you want to do. So just so you know. Other than that, it's been a good year. I want to thank the board for. Well, I think we've had a very successful year. I think as we go into 2016, the town financial house is in as good an order as it has ever been, and that helped get the school passed. We're on our way to a new school. We've got a new fire station going. We're going to have a couple of bumps along the road, but I just am really encouraged at the direction the town's moving in. And just want to thank my fellow board members for some long nights and some long nights to come. But, we're getting it done and we're doing the best that we can, and that's all we can ask. So, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. And with that, we will move now into something that's also seasonal. The Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission is requesting the following be approved. That all current establishments are renewing their licenses, and they want us to vote to set the seasonal population estimated to be the same as the annual population of approximately 11,500 people. So, what is it we're looking for here?
A vote to approve 1 and 2. I think you have the individual licenses in the other room.
And is there a motion to approve both 1 and 2?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? There being none, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have an update on the elementary school project. The next steps and authorization to move the project forward based on the election of the ballot question.
Couple things. Tomorrow we're having a telephone conference, the town accountant and I, with our bond counsel on moving forward now with the debt exclusion vote authorized by the ballot vote. That authorizes the Board of Selectmen to do a debt exclusion. And Article 2 authorizes us to move the project forward. With that, what I anticipate us doing is, until the construction starts, we're gonna be having a constant payment of, a significant payment of, for our architects, for some environmental testing, for some preliminary work. But we're really not gonna get into the tens of $1 million expenditure, until starting this time next year. But in the meantime, we will need to go out and borrow some money. We may be doing that on what's called a bond anticipation note, which is what the board has already done for the fire station and also for the 3 fire engines. Those bond anticipation notes come up in February, March. So again, we're going to be analyzing what's in the town's best interest, whether we continue those bans with some additional revenue to support the soft costs of the school, or whether we go forward taking advantage of some of the interest rates right now to lock in a portion of these expenditures. Tied into that, and why we're trying to get our audit completed, is we need to go to the rating agencies for Standard & Poor's and have the town's bond rating relooked at. Again, we're hoping to maintain what we have or improve it. We've been making all the appropriate steps through our financial policies to put the town in the best interest, that's in our best interest. And the goal is that the higher the bond rating that we have, that should have an impact on what our borrowing rates are, which in turn should helpfully save some money based upon the numbers that we provided the town meeting. So again, where we save 6%, we're still trying to push that to a 10% savings is our goal, and I think there are options that we can eventually get us down into. So again, I just want to give you a heads up on that, and again, the Board of Selectmen are in sole authority of doing all the financing for this project. But again, I anticipate coming back to you with another band authorization, a slight chance of doing some permanent financing, but probably a band to make that happen. So that's where we are at this point. Secondly, we are in the process of receiving our revised contracts to allow the designers to go to beyond the additional 6 weeks that we authorized them to make up this gap. Now we need to have them go forward for the next 9 months to keep this going. So we're going to have a several $7 million contract to execute, as well as authorizing our project managers to go forward with that as well. So that's where we are.
Can I mention just a couple of things, Michael? The building committee has set their next meeting for the last week in January. Project manager talked to me yesterday and said that we're trying to keep the accelerated schedule going. So he's asking that we set a new meeting for January 11th, moving it up to discuss some of the issues that will be coming up from the project manager and the architects, going along with what Michael is saying. So we are moving also.
And normally that meeting would not have occurred until late February if we had actually not utilized these 6 weeks to keep that moving. So, you know, this is going to save us time on the back end. And again, our objective is to get the foundations into the ground before we get into the winter seasons, which, you know, we can't have 2 winters like this one. I mean, I'd like to, but I'm not sure that we're going to be that lucky. So with that, and that's why the next bullet is on here, is we do need authorization to move the project forward.
And in that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. If nobody has a problem, I've handed it out beforehand, before the meeting, so you all have a copy. Normally, I'd say just as written, however, I think it's important for the citizens to know what is in this motion, so with your indulgence, I'll go ahead and read the motion.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Motion. The town administrator is hereby authorized to expend funds in the most fiscally responsible manner and to manage the approved new elementary school project from planning and design to procurement, including negotiations of contracts and change orders with Carver's project managers. The town administrator shall provide monthly updates to the Board of Selectmen and is hereby directed to take such additional actions as may be necessary to carry out this authorization. Further, the town administrator is directed to make every effort to reduce the cost to the Carver taxpayer to 10% below what was approved at the special town meeting, which is $138.58 per $100,000 of assessed value, thereby reducing the debt exclusion burden. The town administrator is also directed to create a cost control committee, CCC, for the new elementary school, with the sole purpose of making necessary changes to keep the project costs within the approved budget as voted by a special town meeting, with a not-to-exceed budget of $49,970,272. The town administrator is further directed to make any necessary reductions in scope to keep the project on budget as authorized with coordination of the CCC. That includes elementary school principal and facilities director to represent the education program. As part of CCC's analysis, they shall ensure that efficient and effective use of governmental resources are being used, and that the decisions are based with long-term operational costs in a life cycle context. The final project costs will be reviewed and approved by the Board of Selectmen prior to going out to bid. The town administrator shall dissolve the CCC upon the conclusion of the school building project and after all punch list items and reimbursements have been realized by the town. Further, the elementary school building committee shall continue in their role to promote the school project and design a project that meets the expectations of the district for submittal to the estimators. This process of creating CCC is done to formalize the process that was used for the schematic design phase to control the project costs as directed by the Board of Selectmen.
I'll second that.
Are you going to read the proposed membership?
I would thought that would be part of the discussion. But I don't want to limit the town, the purpose of the motion is not to limit the town administrator, but during discussion, offer suggestions.
Motion has been made and seconded. We reach the discussion phase. Mr. Ward?
Being the chairperson of the building committee, I was familiar with discussion a little bit before, way before this, on the fact that Mr. Malinowski, our town administrator, wanted to see us have a technical committee, as I thought it was. I was a little bit apprehensive, because I thought that this committee might have some oversight into some of the areas that might concern the educators in our town. So when he further explained it to me, it is a financial oversight committee, okay? And when I thought about that, and I talked to Liz Sorrell, our superintendent, when I thought about that, how, if I'm looking at my citizen neighbors and friends, why wouldn't they want to see an oversight, financial oversight committee? But this committee, as I see it, as Michael has explained it, the educators in our community are going to make the recommendations to the building committee. I heard this afternoon at a meeting the teachers were at that they're having meetings starting Monday, right, with meeting with the architects. So I was concerned with there being input from the teachers, the department heads, and all the administrators at our school, because that's so important. That's the school. This committee is primarily just geared to the watching over, making sure we don't go overboard on costs. That is it. I mean, there's no way that people that are in a technical position are gonna know whether pre-kindergarten kids should have this furniture versus fifth grade should have this furniture, or whatever the case is. That has to be the responsibility of our educators. And so all of that, I want to dispel the idea, there's fears that this committee is going to take over telling the educators how this school's going to be built.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
If I may, as the bringer of the motion, the recommended makeup of this committee, and I don't know if everybody's aware or has been asked yet, but Ruby Meisters, Dave Siedenhoff, Bill Harriman, who is the chairman of the Carver Fire Station Building Committee, Craig Weston, and John Della Pascoli. I thought it was when we first trying to come up with who would be good members for this, I thought it was extremely important to make sure that Ruby and Dave were on that for the education standpoint. Because as Mr. Ward said, it doesn't do you any good to have a building if it's not gonna meet the educational needs. So it's very, to me, it's extremely important to have these members from the school side to go ahead and do it.
Alan, there's 3 members from our building committee on that,
Correct.
counting Mr. Della Pasquale.
And the reason we're thinking with Craig is that he and both Bill Harriman have the experience of going through this whole process for the fire station committee and seeing what they already have experience now of dealing with contractors to make sure something stays on budget. Because contractors, let's face it, they're gonna try to come up with, they're gonna find things that, it's gonna cause for a change order. So having people on this subcommittee that have that experience can go ahead and say, no, I'm sorry, you're not gonna get away with that.
Right.
And I think it's vitally important that the town knows, the citizens of the town, that we're gonna stay on budget. I've heard going into this, oh, that's just a number, it's gonna go way over budget. No, we are going, as a board of selectmen, ensure we stay on budget, but also ensure that we maintain the education plan for this facility, because like I said, you can't have one without the other. And to me, the educational plan is just as important as staying within budget. So I don't know, Ruby, if you've been asked yet, or Dave's been asked, but if not, you're going to be asked.
No, Ruby, why don't you
Could you
step
please
forward
use
to
the
the
microphone?
Come on down to the mic.
And of course, identify yourself as you approach.
Good evening, Ruby Maestas, elementary principal. So there are a few things in that, it's quite an involved motion. So, in terms of the CCC committee, I understand what you're trying to do with this, but one of the pieces that I would recommend is that the incoming superintendent also be a part of that CCC committee. And then there are some pieces in terms of the first section of this motion that I would like just your help in understanding. There's a section about regarding the 10% cost reduction. I'm not finding it.
Sure, that's the second
Second
paragraph,
paragraph.
and what that is when we gave the figure to the town meeting and to the public, the selectmen then went back and added $100,000 to annually to reduce the debt service from 1.7 to 1.6 million dollars. So that had a 6% reduction in what the impact was going to be to the average citizen. What we're trying to do is find other ways through maybe reduce borrowing cost. We've already put some cash into the project that will come out of that to try to keep that down to 10%. The project budget of the $49 million doesn't necessarily change. It's just that how we gave the financing cost. That's what was publicized, not the actual cost of the building, because the financing costs are significantly higher, which is the $1.7 million. So we're trying to reduce that down by 10%. We've already done 6, we're gonna try to do another 4%.
But it's through other means. It's not reducing the
It's not
cost,
reducing
the budget, the money that's been approved for the project. That's there. It's how we can help to go ahead and reduce the burden on the taxpayer.
All right, I understand that piece now. So in terms of, back to the CCC committee, what member team are you looking at? Can you give me a little bit more information on this?
Sure, so in essence, what we're doing is kind of mirroring what we did in the schematic plan phase, where the school building committee presented a plan and they made the cuts they could and they gave it to the Board of Selectmen. And the Board of Selectmen says that's too much, we've got to reduce that down some more. So the selectmen directed me to put together a group of people. We went and met, and you were part of that in Braintree, where we reduced the cost down even further. And then we brought that back to the Board of Selectmen for their final approval before it went out. And that's the key thing in here, is this just mirrors the process we've already done. And by doing so, whatever the final number is before it goes out, and again, that's an estimate before we get the bids in, has to come back to the Board of Selectmen for their final approval before it is released. The school building committee still has its complete role of putting together the scope, what it wants is for little chairs, big chairs, type of flooring, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, based upon our experience at the fire station, based upon typical building constructions, is you may run over budget. And when you start to do that, you have to start to make some technical decisions based upon the material, the build out of the building, the equipment of the building, and that's where this committee would come into play. And just two other things I'd add to two of the people that are there is when you look at Bill Harriman and Craig Weston, is that Craig is an engineer as part of his background. And I will say I've been thoroughly impressed with their efforts in the fire station project. With that, we had a project that was initially looked as though it was going to be over budget due to old money, if you will, that wasn't properly inflated to compare what the cost is. And they have become experts in public construction, understanding the process, and have we made a few minor mistakes? We have. But having some of those people that were involved in those, we're not going to make those for this project, and that's where their value comes into play.
Okay, thanks for clarifying some of that for me. So again, what I would just ask that you would consider is having the incoming superintendent be a part of that member team.
Think that.
I will meet with Scott when he takes over, and we will have that.
I would be in favor of that. I think, because he has some fresh eyes, but he's been with the project, and it's gonna be, it's the town school, but it's gonna be his responsibility on how the educational plan develops, so I would be in favor of that.
Is the membership included in this article?
No, it's not.
It's not included
Okay,
there, and
okay.
I will tell you, I didn't want to commit Scott without him being in the proper role right
Yep.
now. I felt it was more important to have you there because you're going to be dealing with the day-to-day activities, and that to me was real important. I have no issue, and I will ask Scott, once he's in that position and willing to make that commitment, whether or not how much of an effort he can make to this. But I don't have any issue with that. 'Cause
I would
Mr.
like to
Ward?
I would like to see us ask him immediately, so that he's got a heads up that we would like him to serve on this committee.
I purposely did not make the makeup of the board, of the committee, as part of the motion, because I wanted to give the town administrator a little flexibility, because what if he asks somebody and they say, no?
Very good.
I don't wanna lock them in, so, this is just a recommendation, and I feel, adding Scott to it is a tremendous idea, Ruby, thank you.
I've just been told I can't talk to Scott until he officially takes over the role. That's
Oh,
why
oh,
I'm trying to balance this
sorry,
out, but I
sorry.
would like to have him on there.
Maybe someone else could mention it to him for you.
If someone would like to mention it to him,
Ruby,
Mr.
while we
Chair-
have you here, are you willing to serve on the committee?
I am, yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, if I may.
yes.
I have a couple of what I think are kind of serious issues. I don't have any clue as to why we need to have this authorization, why we need to authorize.
Well, because we have contracts to sign, we have a project to start building.
But the town meeting,
Those are coming.
well, we already voted to, the town meeting already voted to authorize, and the ballot, the vote of the town of Carver authorized the project. I guess I'm confused.
Who's gonna implement? How's it gonna be implemented?
Well, I would assume that's up to the school building committee.
But it wasn't before, that's up to the selectmen. And actually, the original votes where everything was up to the town administrator. So that first paragraph mirrors what's in our capital articles, what's in our CPA articles, what was in the original votes that we did last year for the school stuff. So that's typical language that we've been using.
So if I understand you correctly, then you're saying that traditionally it's the town administrator, him or herself, who would implement this.
And it's how we've been doing this, that's correct.
So this
I
is
would have the authority to execute the contracts.
So this is expanding that to include this group of people on this committee.
No, that comes, there's two elements to this motion. One is to get the project moving, to authorize me to sign the contracts and to get the architects on board. And then the second piece is, on top of that, for cost containment, is to get outside technical expertise. Most of them are inside, so to speak, from the school building committee and the education department, to be solely focused and solely directed to keep the project on budget.
Okay, I guess I'm just confused because, well, I have a couple of issues. One is I thought that your job description authorized you anyway.
You have to authorize me to sign the contracts, that's what that first paragraph does.
If I could, I'll let you continue, but I believe a lot of this falls on the Board of Selectmen. What we're doing is authorizing the town administrator to act on our behalf.
because it's
But
our,
he already does.
technically it's our project.
Right.
But he already does.
But we have to authorize him to sign a contract, otherwise all five of us would always have to sign the contracts as they came up.
Okay. So my other concern, I'm afraid, is that this is a huge vote. I mean, it's really long and complicated, and there was nothing indicating it on the agenda except authorization to move forward. I had no idea. I guess I felt a little blindsided, and I hope the public doesn't, because I'm afraid that they might.
There's nothing new in here. It's all the same language. If you look at the warrant, what's normally built into the articles in the warrant, the only thing we've done is formalize the CCC.
And also, if I may, I'm very conscious of making sure I don't step on open meeting law violations,
Right.
so I did not feel comfortable getting this out or letting anybody know about it beforehand, because I don't want to go ahead. So to me, yes, I'm sorry if it's kind of blindsiding you, but to me, was something that, we need, it was on the agenda, it's covered by the agenda,
It's very clear.
so that was my rationale.
That's clear at all. Authorize the town to move forward? What does that mean?
Well, it does say next steps into authorization to move project forward based on,
Well, shouldn't it spell out what those steps are, I guess is my question.
well,
It just
it's
concerns
just,
me.
it's an agenda though, you can only spell out so much on the agenda.
Well, this agenda, it says nothing. I just have some concerns about that.
Okay, well, I mean, that's why we're in discussion. I mean, in past projects, someone always has to be designated to sign the contracts on behalf of the governing body. I can't tell you back in the high school project who that was. I believe it might have been Irwin Washburn when the town hall was built.
Might have been Plymouth, because wasn't the Plymouth Association do it, or the joint?
Well, for the high school, but when we renovated the town hall, it might have been Irwin Washburn that was authorized to. And matter of fact, I think Irwin Washburn, God bless him, I think pretty much made all the decisions and told people afterwards what decision he had made.
Those were the old days.
So that, but I'm sensitive to Sarah's concerns. What is there anything in particular that, I mean, it's basically authorizing the town administrator to sign contracts on our behalf, and then the establishment of a cost control committee to have oversight as the project is moving forward.
No, I'm all in favor of cost control. I guess I just thought it was a school building committee that was going to be doing that. I mean, are they being disbanded, the school building committee?
No, they're still making the recommendations, putting together the project, putting together the scope, putting together all of the RFP package, and submitting that to the estimators. But the financial responsibility of this project does not rest with the school building board of selectmen.
Comment?
Yeah.
Of course, the bottom line is the selectmen are financially responsible. So it has to come back to the Board of Selectmen and who they authorize. But in the beginning of this committee, I wanted a little notification or something to go out so the building committee knew that we were moving towards a cost control committee. But on the other problem is we're trying to move on that expedited schedule. And that includes the architects working. And if you'll notice, they're moving right now to the schools to get input from teachers and faculty and everybody. So this spells it out on what this is, but that does not affect their responsibilities and their duties. And somebody has to do the finite writing out of the contracts, because we don't have people really on the committee other than Liz, the superintendent, and Michael, the administrator, that would be doing that. So that's the reason that I'm going. And my final feeling is that when we do this process and we come down to this committee, to the community, this is going to make them feel better about the cost. There's an oversight committee or an overview committee on the finances. So as long as we make sure that we don't step into the education plan and everything that we need to have our educators doing to get that school that we want, is where I'm at.
And again, I want to emphasize, I'm totally in favor of cost control, but, I mean, now that everyone proposed here, their name is out, I mean, I don't know if they even knew they were being considered and the detail of this, I just feel that more should have been spelled out, I guess, and,
So, I mean, again, this is the time to ask questions. I mean, if there's anything in, I guess I'd ask a question about the cost control committee. So the cost control committee gets together. We've hit a bump in the road. There's, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what it might be, but we've hit something where a decision needs to be made. I don't know, maybe the price of steel has suddenly popped up, so you gotta make a decision as to do this or that. The idea is that the cost control committee would get together, look at whatever the issue is that seems to be causing the problem, try with their collective wisdom to come up with what the best solution is to get around that, keeping the cost within the cost of the budget. Now, are they authorized in conjunction with you to then act on that, or was that something that would then come back to the school building committee?
Sure. So once the building committee, and let's say we're at our final set of plans, and the final set of plans, has all the colors of the carpets and the size of the rooms and the tiles and the lightings and everything that has been done, and you've got your big RFP package. And that goes through the estimators, and the estimators come back and say, okay, you're $400,000 over budget based upon what we believe there are. And at that point, that cost control committee, which is diverse, it has educators, engineers, builders, people that have been in the process before, are going to work with the architects and the designers and say, okay, what other alternatives do we have to get this number down? And then they'll make some recommendations as to what those are. We'll incorporate those into the final plan, and then we'll bring that final plan back to the Board of Selectmen to release, because you'll have the final say on what goes out. So the school building committee has submitted their final plan. That final plan is slightly over budget. You have this diverse group that'll analyze the cost and make the necessary decisions to move that forward. And that's why it's important to have Ruby on there and have Dave on there, just as we had in the schematic plan, because even where there were some things that were wanted to have, they had different priorities, and we made those decisions as to what things needed to drop out to keep it on budget. We may have to go through that process again. Hopefully, when the project goes through the estimator's analysis, is that we're on budget. And we may also decide in some of those items that we may put those as add-ons. So that where I use that $400,000, one or two of those things may be able to be carved off, and if bids come in lower than anticipated, it could be added back in. But there's a lot of detailed analysis that has to go on in that, and decisions made pretty much immediately in order to get the final package together to be presented and submitted to meet proper deadlines.
Does the CCC only meet when there's a bump in the road, or will it be meeting and reviewing along the way?
I would anticipate that it would be meeting at every submittal of that goes to the estimator. Once when the school building committee submits its package, so the CCC can be fully familiar with the details, and then after the estimator actually takes a look at it.
So, Mr. Chair, I guess one more time and then I'll stop. I just think that when it was suggested by a member of the public that we establish a tax relief committee, I believe you as chair said, well, we'll have to put setting up that committee on the agenda. And it concerns me that this was not really on the agenda. Just setting up of a very important committee, whose job I think is extremely important. It just troubles me. I don't see there's no indication that was going to be happening here.
Yeah,
I'm not
the
suggesting
CC
any
committees-
wrongdoing. I just worry about the perception here, that's all.
I think the distinction is that this CC committee is not a selectmen's committee. You're authorizing the town administrator to create, in essence, a staff committee to review this, and that's what it's gonna be.
Mr. Chairman, I'd
Those
like to hear
advisors.
Ms. Marone's input.
Oh, I think we should move forward because I think it's right on the agenda. I think it's making total sense. I think, as I mentioned in the master plan committee, that it is so important that we continue to show the residents of this town that we're gonna continue just to monitor the costs of the project, because we all supported going forward with the project. And Michael already has the authority to sign off on all the contracts. This is just more to be, in my opinion, transparent about the whole thing and having all of the parties be involved in talking through any hiccups that may come along the way. I think it's, I don't think there's any.
Not to speak for Ms. Hewens, but I get the sense that it's not so much the actual motion as much as did we properly advertise it in the agenda, and that, you know, I mean, personally, and perhaps because, you know, I'm involved in a lot of discussions behind the scenes, I knew that we'd be moving ahead with an authorization of this sort. So when I saw the authorization, I knew I was anticipating this was what it was going to be. So that, so to me,
I don't think anyone else was aware.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So was Mr. Siedentoff aware that?
no, because that committee isn't part of the motion.
It's not.
Right, I
Right.
understand that, but I just, so I think that's part of also what Mrs. Hewens is talking about, just in terms of being transparent and communicating all of these pieces. So I'm just wondering, I wasn't aware, I'm glad to be a part of this, I absolutely want to be a part of it, but, and I just happened to be here tonight.
I have not specifically asked Dave, but he has offered on numerous occasions if there's any assistance we need in this project, he's more than willing to do that. Knowing that I already had that global commitment from him, I also did have an opportunity to talk to Chief Weston. I've actually talked to him going back a few months, because this is an important process to mirror what we're doing for the fire station, to keep the project under the cost control. He's agreed to do it, and I talked to Bill Harriman earlier this week. So generally, they're all in favor.
And I think because we're trying to move forward and continue to be positive and working together, that you had gone through each thing and say, okay, I understand that, I understand that, I understand that. So it seems like you understand what Michael's trying to accomplish. The members that are being asked to be part of it, it's not part of the motion. So if for some reason David doesn't feel it, then I'm sure Michael will work towards, getting an alternative. But I think this is a great idea. I think it's gonna be work well for the perception of this town, that those 504 voters that voted no, know that we are gonna continue to work together to not only build a perfect school for the education plan, but also to always be aware of the cost associated with it. So I think we should move forward with it. To me, it was on the agenda, we walked through it, and I think we all understand it at this point.
Yeah, I'm sensitive to what Sarah's mentioning, but I'm comfortable that it was properly advertised, but that's,
Can we go to a vote, please,
you moving the vote?
if I may?
Sure. We've got a motion and a second. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd like to abstain.
Okay. 4-0-1, is that how that's?
Mm-hmm.
Because a recusal is when you don't
Right.
count it at all, correct? Okay, thank you. Ruby, thank you.
Ruby,
Thank you
Thank
very much, Ruby.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, folks.
Minutes, licenses, topics not reasonably anticipated by the chairman 48 hours in advance of the meeting. The minutes of November 17th, 2015. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move the minutes.
Second.
I have a amendment that needs to be made to the minutes. Motion made by Clark to not to adopt the residential exemption. Dunham recused himself from the vote. Second by Hewens. Vote, it says here 5-0, should have been 4-0.
That's right.
Other than that, I didn't find anything else.
Yep, and I do see that it initially lists me as absent, but then later on notes my arrival.
Right.
After being stuck in traffic up on Route 495, so. Is there a motion to accept the minutes subject to the amendment?
I'll make that motion.
Second, further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, we have an application for a one-day special license, Carver Sportsman's Club, on 1/29/16.
Move we accept.
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. And we have a request for the use of Sampson's Pond, the East Side Sport Fishing Club, on May 15th, 2016. Would like to have a fishing contest there, I guess, bass fishing tournament from 5:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. This is about the fourth or fifth we've approved for this year. The
Yeah.
place is going to be fished out by the time, you know, who's ever coming in late here.
Just on that subject, can I just suggest that maybe the board may want to look at a policy of designating one of your members to review and approve these and just give notice to everybody these are coming out? And, I mean, we can work on a policy, but do you want to be doing these on a regular basis like this?
Well,
Or
let's take that under
next week?
advisement. For now, let's leave them in there, but yeah, you know,
I
but,
think it's good for the residents to know what's going on in town, though. I mean, but it's something we can talk about.
do you know the state record bass came out of Sampson's Pond, 15.5 pounds?
That is very, see, we wouldn't have known that
Yeah.
if we just had one person signing.
Saltwater one in there?
The-
I don't think you were recommending one person signing it, right? You were recommending one of us.
I was saying,
Look
let's,
into it?
look into it, yeah,
And
just
advise
get
you.
further discussion, yeah, yeah. No, but, on,
Move we accept.
Move we, yeah, accept this request.
there a second? So there's a motion and a second to, I thought we had done that, but okay, well, since we did, I got caught up with it,
We
15.5
were-
pound bass, which, by the way, some of the old timers say that it was actually caught somewhere else. They only told people it was Sampson's Pond
Are
to
we
save
ready to
their
vote?
special fishing spot.
All those in favor?
Excuse me? All those in favor of awarding this fishing contract, please signify by, tournament license, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. We now have a motion to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining negotiations with unions and for non-union negotiations with all non-union personnel not under contract, and strategy for litigation and for purchase, exchange, sale, lease, or value of real estate that may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the town if held in open session, and to reconvene in open session. Who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Can I ask a question? We just approved the,
Second it so you can ask the question.
thank you. I'm sorry, but we approved the Sportsman's Club,
Yes.
but did we do the one for the?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
That was a combined motion.
Thank you, I just wanna make sure I understand what I just said yes to.
That's right.
You would too.
She said, that was a combined motion.
Yeah.
Name vote.
Yes.
Well,
Hey,
did
I'm
anybody
on the
second
job
again?
here. This has to be a name vote, please, Mr.
Al
Dunham.
Dunham says aye.
Roll call.
Sarah,
boy,
Sarah
it's like being
Hewen
at home.
says aye.
Donna Clark says aye.
Dick Ward says aye.
Helen Maroney says aye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Catherine.